our first virtue of the company is that we're servants to our customers. And that's not like some bullshit like version, which is like, oh, we love our customers or otherwise. Like, I chose the word servant like very specifically because at the end of the day, without them, like, we're nothing.
Welcome to the intro, no need for introductions. All about the world and the world what we discussing. Where every single thought that we had came from something. So it's funny that we made it when we started here with nothing. Gotta open up your mind just to find out why. When you lost inside the dark, just gotta turn on the light. And no matter what you do, you never run from a fight. Because we fighting to be better and that's why we strive.
So we're here with John Andrew Entwistle. Very cool. Love the name. The founder of Wander, which is, I think, one of the hottest startups on Twitter right now. Do you want to kind of do a quick intro about yourself and your company, and we'll kind of go from there?
Yeah. So name's John Andrew, 25, founder of Wander. Effectively, what Wander is doing is verticalizing the short-term rental space. So today you have your booking platforms, Airbnb, VRBO. Underneath that, you have your property managers like Vacasa or otherwise, and then underneath that, you have the actual property owners. And what that leads to is a really fragmented guest experience. And so the idea with Wander is to verticalize that entire stack, provide a great experience for travelers, and hopefully a better product for the world.
If they're listening on audio, they can't experience like the beauty of some of these properties you guys have. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. I had well, I know you know Ritwick. I mean, he took one of your properties, I believe, in Utah or something like that. Maybe it was in Denver.
I think it was Tahoe.
Tahoe, yeah. And it's so gorgeous. They had the time of their lives. How many properties are you guys up to right now?
Right now, it's just 13.
13?
So not super big.
And so what's the long-term play to have like thousands of properties? Are you guys, worldwide? Like what's kind of like the long-term goal for this?
In terms of the number of locations, the most critical thing is obviously being a product that people can enjoy, right? Being close to as many people as possible. So with about 50-ish locations, which is our goal for this year, we should be within 3 hours of 90% of people. Okay. And then beyond is obviously international and everywhere in between.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited to dive into all that, but just first and foremost, like, why did you want to start this product? Like, of course, like, they're so big, we don't even need to like not mention them. Like Airbnb obviously is so dominant in like the rental space. So what made you go, okay, I think I can break into this? And then two, like, why did you want to break into this?
Yeah. So when you look at, again, these booking platforms, right? Like, they don't actually own the inventory, and that's what leads to, I think, what a lot of people have had, which is just a subpar guest experience.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
With the cleaning fees up the
just like fees that turn into 100% of the booking, or place doesn't look like the photos, and the problem there is obviously you have a bunch of misaligned incentives, right? Airbnb makes its money from just getting people to book a place. Same with the operator, host, or the property manager's goal is to basically like have it be as efficient as humanly possible, and so they're not really caring about cleanliness or otherwise. And so, when you look at Wander and you sort of look at all this fragmentation, really the only way to solve it is to verticalize. Sort of how like Apple owns the hardware and the software. When you do so, you can create this really magical experience. And so that was the thesis with Wander was, could we own the hardware and the software, own the demand, really verticalize the sector and solve the problem? And so far we have. Our guest experience is like, our customer satisfaction is like 93%, which birthdays in the United States is 89%. So it's like just as good as a birthday. Which is really, really solid. So in terms of like competing with the idea, I mean, again, like, at the end of the day, you need some type of strategic moat in your startup. You can't just have a technology moat or distribution moat, or otherwise there needs to be something deeper underlying it. And with Wander, when you break it all away, it's a closed ecosystem, right? It's a walled garden. And so we own our users, we have the properties. It's like Netflix with original content, right? No matter what anyone else does, like Stranger Things is only on Netflix.
Hey, there we go. I love that. Why don't you think Airbnb owns any properties at all? Like, why wouldn't they just buy up like 10% of their properties and kind of go that way?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is that they totally could, right? I mean, they could launch a REIT like we have, build out that property management arm, and then go and scale from there. And candidly, that would probably be the smartest approach.
You're like, don't do it, but like if I were you,
I mean, listen, like at the end of the day, like I don't care if they did or didn't do it, and also to be clear, I very much respect them and
they're amazing founders. Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, they certainly could. It would be a lot of work, obviously, and you could argue from like a cultural perspective and brand perspective, and otherwise it would be misaligned.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the short answer is that like I do think it is a good idea to have some type of exclusive control over your inventory.
No, 100%. And how did you get started with this? Like, obviously, we're at 13 properties now. Website's gorgeous. You own. We'll get to the SEO part because you own the word Wander. Like, there's a movie called Wander, and you guys are before them, which is really impressive. But where do you start? Because you start off, you do not have a property yet. You do not have people staying in it yet. Like, do you just pick one property and go have your buddies rent it? Like, what was day one for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, I started Wander after I stepped down as CEO of my previous company, Coder. And so, like, I did have the good fortune of having a network, right, in terms of, investors and otherwise. And so we kind of speed ran the seed through Series A stage of the company. So we started the company on May 5th of 2021. I believe we closed our seed round probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks after that.
Wow.
And yeah, that seed round ended up totaling, I think, like $7-ish million by the time the dust settled on everything. And then yeah, really it's you start development on the booking platform, and you go out and you acquire your first property, and you prove that this is something that users are excited for. I think by the time we launched, we had maybe like 40,000 users on the wait list, and we had generated like $250,000 in revenue just from like founding memberships, which was our idea of proving we had product market fit.
Did you expect that though? Like, were you, because you come from, like, obviously, like, I run a B2B now, but I ran a B2C first, and like that didn't go so well, but I knew so much going into the B2B that I felt like I was a step ahead. So did you feel like that was gonna happen? Or were you nervous, or were you like, that's what should happen?
Yeah, I mean, like, candidly, I've been running companies since I was like 13.
Okay.
And obviously, like, nothing at like public scale or otherwise yet. But the way that I think about it is that really what I was trying to make sure of is that the idea was correct, right? And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to kill it as early as possible if it was going to die.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so, like, that's even why. So we launched, obviously, the idea, great reception, and I'm like, I don't trust wait lists.
You can, exactly.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm gonna like see if anyone like really wants us, have them pay $100, right? Like Tesla with the pre-orders, except for us, we'll do, a hoodie and like you get like $100 in credits and all that sort of fun stuff. And
like through a Kickstarter, like through
no,
what?
Just on the website.
Oh, through your own. Okay, cool. I figured it wasn't Kickstarter.
Yeah, like it like skipped. It allowed you to like skip the wait list.
Cool.
And like you got a hoodie and stuff. And yeah, it generated like, that was live for like a month basically. But yeah, it generated like $250K in revenue.
So cool.
And so at that point, like I knew that like, okay, people are excited, and also like people are willing to pay for the idea. The product ended up launching shortly thereafter. I think we did like $250K in our first week.
And when you say product, is that like, would you have 3 properties, 1 property? Like...
Yeah, so we launched with 3 properties.
Okay.
Actually 2 properties is what we launched with, and then we added a third very shortly after, and then kept adding. So.
What do you, with those first properties, like what would you say, because I know you guys offer like a Tesla, and like, I'm sure it's like spotless when you get there, which is, we'll get into that in a sec, but what things have changed from that first 3 property to the 13 now, like as far as like amenities and like what you guys take care of?
Yeah, I mean, the amenities are actually pretty similar, right? Like the whole idea when you own the hardware and the software is like, what can we do that no one else can?
Yeah.
And that's where things like, wouldn't it be cool if it had a Tesla? Wouldn't it be cool if you could turn on and off the lights right through your phone? Wouldn't it be cool if the music was playing when you checked in?
Yeah.
All these different ideas. And so we really do all of that still today. The difference is, of course, is that, we made it a point to not focus on, again, density in terms of location. And so, we have properties from California to New York to Vail, etc. And so the difference is really like scaling that, like that person light operation model, right?
Yeah,
where
for
it's
sure.
like, can we stand up a new location anywhere?
Yeah, I guess my question was like when you did that first 3 properties, did you already offer the Tesla?
Yep.
Or was that okay? So you started off like we know exactly what we're gonna do. Like, has anything been really? Like, of course, you've improved some stuff. Like, what are the biggest improvements that have happened since those first 3?
Well, I mean, of course, like any startup, right? Like everything's janky when you first start.
Yeah.
Like you're just trying to like create that MVP, and so like if you look back at like the app, the performance, like all those different pieces, that was broken. But I mean, not broken actually, but like
yeah. I know
you know, not perfect.
Yeah.
It's still obviously not perfect, but the actual user experience is what we worked backwards from the start, right? Like we had an opinion about what would people be willing to pay for, what was going to be an incredible experience, and then built the business around that. And so when we launched, like that's what people wanted, and so that's what we're scaling, right? It all kind of still works backwards from the customers. But in terms of improvements, I would really say it's all like technological, operational, that kind of thing.
Very cool. And who cleans the place? Do you guys have like local cleaning crews in each city? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so they're not Wander employees, obviously. They're local cleaning crews who are all really amazing. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the business that I don't think people necessarily think about is that like the economic impact that a Wander has on these small communities is really impactful.
Very cool.
Like
man. Yeah.
we know our cleaning crews, we know the handymen, we like know the local restaurants and like all that sort of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's also like the nice part of being the owner, operator, and booking platform is that like it has a soul because we actually care.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
like the same people who run the booking platform are also very aware of like the first names of the cleaning crew,
I love
for
that.
example.
Very cool. Yeah, but I've interviewed a lot of people that have a similar thing where like they don't have an employee per se, but like that person is very much involved in your business and there's like training involved. So was that a thing with the cleaning crew, for example, where you kind of just go, yeah, clean the place, do your best, or did you have to create like this better be clean in this room and this has to go here? Like, was there like kind of a game plan for each of these properties?
Yeah, I mean, really what you want to do is like productize that onboarding and your standards. And so for Wander, like everything is obviously revenue triggered, right? So when a guest goes and books and then checks out, there's a series of alerts that go out to cleaning crew, handyman, like pool people, etc.
I love that.
And they all come in and basically go through this checklist, like item by item, and check it off in their app. And
Very
then
cool.
once everything's checked off, we get an alert. Guest is able to check in.
That's beautiful. I love that. I didn't even know it was that complicated. I mean, well, not complicated, but like that sophisticated.
Well, the whole business is like extremely complicated, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it, like you have a booking platform, so that's the same like technology as like an Airbnb, for example. You have the property management side of the house, which is the same business as a Vacasa. You have our property management software, which is all in-house, which is a whole different world that I think people aren't probably very familiar with, but you have companies like Guesty and otherwise that have raised like $250 million
just to do
space.
that piece of the
Just to do that piece. And then you have the asset management as well. Like we just launched Atlas, which is the first REIT in the space. Basically,
a buddy of mine wanted me to ask you about that. So
yeah, for sure.
There you go. Yeah.
Allows basically people to own a piece of this portfolio because
So cool.
finance is the other side of real estate. So the question of how do you scale and then how do you involve users into this flywheel? And so, like, and even down to the actual Tesla, right? So like when you book a Wander, at least with the most recent release, that's all through the app, right? Like signing the agreement, having access to it, unlocking the car through the Wander app.
So cool.
I mean, that's like exactly what Turo has, right?
Yeah.
So you look at all the different things that we've had to build out to like create this magical experience, and it's a really like beautiful ecosystem.
Is that like, I mean, I have so many questions off of everything you just said, but like, is there like a Tesla API you connect to so that your app can unlock a Tesla? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, definitely shout out to Tesla for giving us.
They're the car that would be able to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not even something that they really do publicly.
Oh, very
we had
cool.
to yeah, the good people at Tesla were kind enough to basically give us access.
That's really cool. Okay, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I didn't realize there were so many factors to it. To people watching, like, can you explain what a you call it a REIT?
A REIT, yeah.
A REIT, yeah.
Yeah, it stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. You can, I mean, effectively what a REIT is basically a tax-advantaged investment vehicle for real estate. So everything that you see around you when you like go downtown or multifamily or otherwise, I mean, it's either going to be some type of like real estate PE fund or basically a REIT.
Gotcha.
And so, what we did for Atlas is the idea being that we want to scale the number of locations. Short-term rentals obviously offer a pretty outstanding yield profile compared to other, even not just single-family assets, but other hospitality assets generally. And so it's a really attractive investment category. But there really is no institutional-grade investment available. Like you can either go and buy a house and change the light bulbs and like clean everything yourself, or you can invest in one-off properties. But there's no portfolio-wide institutional level investment by professional operators. And I saw this idea where effectively every time someone stays at a property, you had this opportunity to turn them to investors.
Oh my God, I love.
And then more investors equals more properties, which equals more users. And so you have this beautiful flywheel. But what's also exciting, and I think even more interesting, is that you have the flywheel in reverse, where you have investors who are attracted to the yield, who then go stay at the properties,
nice.
And then that cycle continues as well. So it's really all about this idea of blurring the line between customer and owner, and eventually you can imagine a world where you go and stay at a Wander and you earn $300 into your Atlas account, and then you can choose if you want that to go into your like the dividends to go into your bank account or in Wander credits, or all these different things. So. And eventually, I mean, you can even imagine replacing like the second home market, right? Like, why buy a second home when you could just go and stick that money into Atlas and get some type of match on your dividends to go stay at Wanders?
And did you guys create Atlas, or this is a like what? Okay, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, creating a REIT is not easy.
Was it harder to create Wander or a REIT?
I mean, the whole thing is it's interesting too because I'm running like 5 hours of sleep today, so it's like I'm like powering through this.
There we go. Hey, cheers, really quick. Cheers.
Yeah,
cheers.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming out, man.
Sponsored by
Tequila 512. There we go.
Absolutely.
All day. Wait. There we go. Now I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think what's interesting, right, about like difficulty is there's the challenge of the unknown, which is we have this thing that we want to create, but it doesn't exist. There's lots of really great examples of that. Like, you look at the advancements that are being made.
Pipe Dream, there you go.
Yeah, Pipe Dream, or the advancements that are being made in AI or otherwise. And then there's the known that's just hard, right, that you need to execute on. And when we're starting Wander, and I wrote the original vision to that group of angel investors, the basic principle that I shared with them is that nothing that we're doing breaks the laws of physics.
I love that.
And so as long as that's true,
Yeah.
like, I should be able to execute as long as the idea is wanted by consumers, right? Like, as long as customers want it and are willing to pay for it, and it doesn't break the laws of physics, then it's doable.
Which is the nerdiest anything is possible I've ever heard. It's literally, I love that though. Yeah.
So it's been a great journey, and I think that I think when people look at Wander and look at really any of these like verticalized businesses, they realize that the whole is worth so much more than the sum of its parts, because each piece of it is interacting in this beneficiary way. And so it's super exciting. It's also exciting too to see it work, right? Like
for sure. People going in renting your apartment places.
Yeah,
and then,
I mean, like, cash flows are super strong. Investment interest is like off the charts, and now people can actually go and invest. And so we see like all this money like flowing into Atlas as a REIT. We're having conversations with dozens of institutional investors with check sizes ranging from like $20 to $200 million.
What are you, like, Series B right now? Like, what do you even call it? Like,
well, those are all on the real estate side.
Oh, just like for the REIT itself. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
What So to clarify, if someone like listening to this podcast goes and invests in Atlas to your REIT, like they don't have equity in Wander, right? They have equity in those. Oh, they do have equity.
No, they have equity in the REIT. Yeah.
So okay. I was like, what? Cool. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and that's also too. I mean, like to that end, right? Like, there's a whole different problem when it comes to like investing into private companies. I think like as most founders and entrepreneurs and even early employees are aware, there's all types of like general limitations, but I mean allowing our community to own a piece of Wander as well is something I'm super excited for. But the best vehicle for that is just to take the company public.
Oh, for sure. Do you have that on your timeline, you think, at some point?
Yeah, I mean certainly, right? I mean, in startups you either exit or you die.
Or go public.
Well, yeah, I mean, going public would be an exit.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. Yeah, I'm excited to see. Well, I mean, how many? I'm not even gonna ask that. Never mind.
Go for it. What's the question?
How many years are we thinking before you go public?
I mean, basically, like the way I think about going public is you need some level of predictability in your business, because obviously, like real estate or Wall Street rather will just demolish you otherwise.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You need to obviously be profitable because, again, Wall Street has sort of spoken on like non-profitable businesses. And so, for Wander, because our cash flows are so strong, like profitability actually is not very far away, which is like nice.
That's really cool.
But then you get into like predictability and you get into really like numbers that start to make sense. And it's interesting too, because I think that there was this period where companies were staying private for longer because the private markets were so rich, right? Like,
we had some good years.
Yeah, why go and take your company public when you can just go and raise a few $1 billion in the private markets? Versus today, that's becoming like less available, and so like going public and raising capital through the public markets is now starting to become more attractive. Though of course there's like the counterbalance to that, which is like the public
having to go public. Yeah.
So yeah, in any event, it's certainly on our roadmap. Ultimately, it'll be a decision based on like what's best for the employees and shareholders and all that sort of good stuff. But it's certainly something that if we can do it and it's in the best interest of shareholders, I'd love to do.
And that IPO kind of makes sense for me as far as like what you guys are doing, because especially when you talk about how organized you are when it comes to like your staff, and then like cleaning people, you check it off in the app, like everything seems like you seem really well organized. I love organization. I love like product, and from what I can imagine, like it feels like you guys could just kind of copy and paste this in every city if you really wanted to, which is my next question. Like let's say we're opening one up in Austin, which I'm sure is on your roadmap at some point.
Yeah.
What is the timeline from the point where you're like, this is the property we're buying, to the point where I can rent it out?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just walk you through like the whole acquisition.
I would love that
process.
too. Yeah, for sure.
So basically, we have these like giant dumps of data, short-term rental data, which shows us occupancy, seasonality, rental rates, all the way down to the zip code, and even down to like the exact property.
Nice.
So that creates a heat map across the United States of basically what regions are most profitable to invest in.
Cool. That's your own algorithm you created, or like that's?
Yeah, I mean, we do the data science internally, but these data sets, come from everywhere.
Cool.
DNA, key data, just general hospitality data sets, etc.
Gotcha.
And so we pull down all that data, do our own analysis on it, and then we're actually currently scaling a tool which basically automatically scrapes what's on market and then pulls that into our basically like our feed, and then that goes from there. So once we've identified a property in a market where like everything is going green, so to speak, then it goes through an even deeper underwriting test. It gets obviously we do a walkthrough, we check quality, we make sure it's
like
in
a
great
physical
area.
walkthrough, or
physical walkthrough.
Okay.
All the properties.
When you say we, what is that? Like, is you or your
operations?
Your whole, like, how many people is flying out to check out this property?
I mean, one person will do the
gotcha.
walkthrough.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
the inspection. Yeah, that'll just be one person.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's really just making sure that it's something that's great for guests, right? Great for guests, like a really unique asset that we want to own, that investors want to own, etc. Then from there, we obviously go into contract, appraisals, desktop reviews, all this sort of stuff behind the scenes. I mean, the actual underwriting process is pretty involved and sophisticated, looking at everything from like how does this affect the overall portfolio to what is the ADR impact of adding a let's say like a hot tub or
Yeah, for
another
sure.
bedroom or otherwise. So once we've gone through that process and we decided that we're going to buy the house, basically immediately the team starts to 3D render the entire interior. So couches, you know, like basically all of your CapEx.
What does it usually cost you guys to get all that new furniture in there? Because I'm sure you just like
yeah, it ranges. I mean, typically it's like 7-ish% of property value. So
Gotcha.
it can range anywhere from like 80 grand to like 150 grand, depending.
Do you have like actually, I guess twofold. I know this is a question in a question in a question.
Yeah.
But do you guys have like a one? Do you have like one website you go to like order all the stuff? And then the second question would be, do you have like different themes for like is it Denver different than in New York?
Yeah, totally.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we go, so we have like 100 different partners on the furniture front,
So
which
cool.
is which is really how we're able to deliver the quality we are at that sort of price point, because those discounts range anywhere from like, you know, 50 to 60+%
So
discounts.
cool. Nice.
So yeah, everything's 3D rendered, approved, procured. It basically gets shipped to the central repository, which is the same infrastructure you use if you're moving to a new city, for example.
Gotcha.
Then we get keys. Everything's installed. Then, you know, the team from Wander will go and install the smart home tech, all that sort of fun stuff. Cleaning crews will all be onboarded into the Wander system, and yeah, that process can take anywhere between like 2 weeks to 4 weeks if there's like light reno.
Very cool. And do you guys ever like? I'm just gonna use a dumb word, but do you ever edit the house, like rebuild anything, or
Yeah,
like?
totally.
Okay. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really, like the company is ran by the numbers, right? So I mean, everything is based off of the underwriting and related budgets, and basically like what is the yield
Yeah.
on the total, you know, cost of this property, because obviously we don't just underwrite against the appraised value, we underwrite against like the total cost to Wander. And so, you know, for example, like our house in Vail, right? Like we bought that under appraised value,
Gotcha.
by a pretty significant margin, but that required, you know, insert like X number of improvements. And so we try not to do those types of projects, but in key markets where like Wander Vail is super exciting, or Hawaii, for example, or otherwise, it's kind of a, you know, have to, but we try and have everything be as turnkey as possible.
Very cool. I mean, what's so cool about this too is I can see like, I mean, let's even go before the IPO stage. Like at some point, you guys are going to just physically, financially own hundreds of properties.
Yep.
Like that alone, regardless of fucking Wander, like that's just like a lot of assets that you guys own. It's like, I can't think of another startup where you're in that scenario where it's like, even if for some reason Wander wasn't working out, like you're like, oh, well, we can just sell all these properties.
Yeah, I mean, the
like,
downside protection for like the thing to remember is that, I mean, Wander will become as asset light as Airbnb.
Yeah.
We won't own the properties; they'll be owned through the REIT.
Oh, of
so
course,
they'll be owned
yeah.
by the investors, like, and everything inside the properties as well, those improvements, etc. And so Wander really is basically an asset manager and a technology platform. And so, but you're right, like people don't need to ponder like what is the business model and how does it make money.
Exactly.
Like,
You're just like, oh.
we rent the properties, and after expenses and like Wander's fees, the rest flows to investors, and like that's a business that's existed. I mean that's how hospitality works. That's
Exactly.
how hotels work and otherwise. The difference is, of course, is that instead of being just the booking platform or just the property manager or like just the asset manager, we've decided that the best product for the customer, which is what matters at the end of the day, is to own the whole stack.
Are you very like customer focused? Like, are you very much like, do you really care? Like, can you put yourself in the customer's like shoes when they check into the Wander and then when they leave the Wander, like what their experience is like? Is that kind of how you are as a CEO?
Yeah, I mean, our first virtue of the company is that we're servants to our customers, and that's not like some bullshit like version, which
Yeah.
is like, oh, we love our customers or otherwise. Like, I chose the word servant like very specifically because at the end of the day, without them, like, we're nothing.
Yeah.
Like, without their love and them willing to spend money with us and otherwise, like, this company purely doesn't exist. And the result of that, I think, is like pretty extraordinary statistics on Wander. So our average order size is like $4,500, which is pretty ridiculous.
That's incredible.
We have, I mean, a ridiculous number of customers whose LTV already, and the company hasn't been live for very long, is north of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
Because they keep re-renting.
Because they keep booking new properties. And then, of course, you have those customers who are then also investing in Atlas and becoming an owner of the actual like underlying product.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when a customer submits feedback, it blasts to the entire company. And I will literally read every single line of that submission and personally tag the people responsible in fixing it. Like, oh, the smart home was buggy. It's like, okay, like we're going to tag product. Or like, it would be great if you all added hot chocolate mix. It's like, okay, we can do that, like tagging procurement and otherwise. And that's the whole idea as well, is that we can actually iterate towards perfection. Like, we're the only company in this space who theoretically can iterate towards perfection because we have control.
Well, with that hot chocolate point, like, I mean, before I started my company, like, I was very much in the hospitality, like, waited tables, like, managed store, like, at what point, and this also ties into like being a SaaS founder, like at a certain point I can't give everyone what they want. So like obviously you can get more hot chocolate, but like at what point do you go like, okay, no, we're not going to put a pool in this, you know, property? Like is like, how often do you like actually fulfill the requests of the guests, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, like everything like needs to you need to make sure that you're scaling positive unit economics. Like at the end of the day, each property needs to be profitable in its own right.
Yeah.
And so you can't be doing things that like demolish your NOI, for example. Like you need to ensure profitable operations, but if we can do so and satisfy customers, then like that's the dream. So yeah, I mean, there are certainly times where like we can't delight customers. Like, for example, if there's someone coming in behind you, you can't leave the house at 5 o'clock. Like,
exactly.
Even though like like literal quotes, like the beds are super comfortable and you just want to like stay in all day. Like we can't do that for you. Yeah. But I mean, we try and do as much as we can because again, we realize that like customers are everything, and like, you know, if we don't make them happy, like someone else will.
That's true. And with the REITs, how do they know about it? Is it in the app? Like,
so we're starting to add those types of like cross marketing pieces
for sure.
where it says like you can own a piece of these assets, etc.
You have like a physical one in the house when you walk in, kind of a thing.
Not yet, but like that will happen. Cool. There are like other signs in the houses. Obviously, like we take advantage of that dynamic because it like feels good. Though most of the time we use that as like a personal touch, right? Like some type of message from the team to the customer, for example. But yeah, I really like over time, users will see the REIT and this idea of ownership really start to merge in with the core experience of the product. And I think that if you look at our generation, and really I think all generations, like that's what people want. They want to be owners. They don't just want to pay you $5,000 and then like that's it. No
rewards points or anything. Yeah. Well, that ties into like what you mentioned, where you could get $300 towards a REIT or like a whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you also think about just like if people are loving it and then they invest in it, then they become like it's a whole different level of basically like a endorsement, right?
Yeah.
Like you think about how people are going to talk to their friends or their family about this experience they're having. You feel something different when you walk into a home and you know you own some small part of it.
No, for sure. Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, no, it's funny because you said that because I had a guy on my podcast who he runs like a sports SaaS, but he owns a bar in Houston, and they sold memberships to the community that involved equity. And he mentioned the one thing they never thought of is he walked into the bar one day and there was this guy picking up trash that was just like a random guy. He's like, he's the owner. He's like, why are you picking up trash? He's like, oh, I actually own a piece of the company. And he's like, oh my God, I never even considered.
Beautiful.
It makes me emotional. It's like so cool that's like a possibility. That's amazing. And so you mentioned the 4,000 plus. I don't know. Was that like average order size? What was that number you said?
Yeah.
what is the length of that stay? How many people is like 15 people, like 2 rich people? Like what's the like group there?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is that it depends, right? It could be a founder who's had a super tough quarter and like needs to think about the future, needs to clear their head,
for
right?
sure,
And rents the house to get away. Could be a group of friends, could be a company retreat, could be a honeymoon, could be anything, which is sort of the other cool thing from a TAM perspective, right? Is that like we're delivering a product that people can choose how they use. Like I think if you look at like how you're using your iPad right now, for example, like imagine if Steve Jobs was like, you can only use this for reading.
Exactly.
And so it's like our goal is to make the product usable and exciting for as many people as possible. Again, whether you're getting away or otherwise. It really depends.
What's a typical like sleep size for the houses? Like 15 people, 10?
It all ranges as well, because each we have one property, Surfside Beach, which is like great for team retreats. I think it can sleep like 20 people.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
But then we also have like Abandoned Beach, which I think is like the most incredible place in the U.S.
Where's that at?
It's in Bandon, Oregon.
Bend. Yeah.
Bandon, Southern Oregon.
Welcome to Wander Bandon Dunes, a beachfront home located in Bandon, Oregon. I'm Sarah, and I'm going to be giving you a tour of this property. You might be considering booking this for your next vacation or workcation, or perhaps you've already made a reservation and you simply just want to check it out before checking in. Either way, let's go take a look inside.
Gotcha.
You have like the dunes rolling right up to this beautiful modern house, like, and you're staring
We'll put
at
that
the
up
ocean.
on screen.
Yeah,
we'll put that up.
It's one of the most incredible places, and that's a 2-bedroom, right? So
so cool. And I can't remember why I wrote this question down, but I think I saw it somewhere. Like, you guys have a bunch of like partnerships and collaborations, right? Like, who are you collaborating with? Like, what do you guys both get out of it? Can you kind of just go through partnerships, I guess?
Yeah, partnerships is again really critical anytime you're starting to create this walled garden, because it allows you to basically tap into their customer base along with create value for your customers and really create this ecosystem and this idea of belonging, right? That, like by being a Wander user, like for example, you get 15% off a Herman Miller.
Oh,
like,
very cool.
That's a ridiculous perk that like it's just there because like we're buying so many chairs from Herman Miller and we want to bring that, like we want to bring our community into that as well. And so, I mean, there's even this this one that we're working on currently with this like most incredible luggage manufacturer, because like I'm a little bit of like a suitcase nerd, as you would imagine. I travel quite a bit.
I've never met one in my life. There you go.
And I finally found one that I was absolutely in love with, and
Very cool.
the guy who runs it actually, I was exposed to the product because he wanted to invest in Atlas.
Oh wow! That flywheel.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming
right?
around,
And so it's like we're going to be giving 25% off to like Wander customers. So it's about adding value and creating this again, like this value for the customer and community, which I think like if you were to look at other examples, like Amazon has done an incredible job with Prime, for example, or American Express has done an incredible job with for discounts for their card members.
For sure.
And so if you can tap into these partners and share and create value for your customers and for them, it's a little bit of like a cheat code in our industry.
Oh, for sure. That's awesome. One thing I wanted to ask about is like I guess like saturation, or maybe having too many properties in a certain area, because I feel like right now Wander is such a like oasis, like vacate, like I can't even fathom how cool these properties are. Do you see a point where like if you had 25 of them in Austin, does that kind of kill the vibe, or would people not care? Like what do you think?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different issues with density. So the way to think about it is that again, like going back to this idea that everything we do is sort of like controlled by the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So for example, like a reason we don't have 50 homes in Joshua Tree is, let's say, like I don't know, like there was some like sea monster that came out of LA and then like settled down in Joshua Tree, right? I mean, you can replace that with any type of like horrific event, you know, earthquake or fire or otherwise. And so once you realize that if you have basically a lack of diversity across your portfolio, then you realize like, okay, what risk do we have? You have risks of customer base from a demand perspective. You have risks of like natural events. You have supply issues. You have all these different like concentration issues, which also means that it's no longer an investable or lendable product. And so that was something that I determined very early was the importance of geographic diversity, right? Like even taking a look at, let's say like HPD, right? Like home price depreciation. Like let's say Joshua Tree goes down 5%, but Vail goes up 10%. If we had all of our homes in Joshua Tree, like that wouldn't be a great year.
Of course.
But if you're sort of spread out across all these markets, you sort of take this like index of the entire United States from, again, really everything, demand, appreciation, markets, all these different pieces. So yeah, I think that's what even allowed us to land this, you know, $100 million facility that we did with Credit Suisse.
I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. I don't know what that is, but
okay. Like is because we were really intelligent around portfolio composition at the start.
Okay. So then what was $100 million what, sorry?
Yeah. So we closed a $100 million credit facility with Credit Suisse. Basically allows us to go and finance the homes.
So cool.
Which is also a process as well. It's going back originally, it's talking about like all the stuff that we do. And yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, to have an institutional bank facility at our scale. So cool. Again, this company is only 19 months old, right?
That's crazy, man.
And that's not 19 months old from like, you know, like I feel like a lot of founders tend to like recreate history, their timelines a little bit. Like that's like day one. And so yeah, the level of sophistication that we also had to have internally, like audited financials, like the experience of the team, you know, like property metrics and performance, the buy boxes, again, things like concentration limits and otherwise is just really, really sophisticated for our age.
So cool, man. You know, I mean, 19 months in, that's incredible. You guys are already so far away. I mean, so far. Which
is also too, I think, why like, I mean, 13 locations can sound like a lot or a little, depending on like
who you're
how
talking
people
to.
think about it.
Yeah.
To me, it is always going to sound like very few. But it was very important to me that we didn't go and scale unintelligently. Like, we wanted to know that the economics were positive. We wanted to know that our reporting was correct. We wanted to make sure that we had positive NOI. All these different pieces. And so, like, that means that you need to scale every piece of this company in parallel. Yeah. And that, I think, is the most exciting thing for me looking into 2023 is that we finally laid basically the entirety of that foundation. And so now it's really about scale. Yeah. And I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised at sort of like the pace that Wander executes at from here out.
I'm excited. So one question I had, and I feel like I always say that, and I have so many questions, but so you guys have crushed marketing, I feel like. Has that ever been a stressor for you? Like, are we not going to fill these rooms? Because I feel like you're so good on Twitter. Everyone's Wanders everywhere. I heard about you guys, like, I swear, like 2 years ago. I don't even know why we're following each other, but I've been following you for so long. I'm like in this Wander world. Has marketing stressed you out at all? And like, have there ever been a point where you're like, oh my God, we need to fill these rooms more? Like, we have vacancies. Like, what has that been like for you?
Yeah. So in terms of like stressing me out, I mean, we have extremely great leadership. Kyle Tibbetts is our CMO, and he was early at Hotel Tonight, Open Door, and otherwise. And when you have a great marketing leader, like everything's easier. I mean, that really goes for everyone in your team. Like, you need great leadership around you as a founder, otherwise you're just gonna get stuck in the weeds. I mean, we're fortunate that demand is extremely strong for our properties, but the idea is also like, how can we overperform?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, if market occupancy in December is 40%, like, how can Wander execute at 90% and have that, that type of overperform. And so, for us, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a stressor. I would just say it's something that like is critical.
Yeah.
Like you need if you have a good product, you need good go-to-market as well.
For sure. And what have you guys done? I mean, I know that's maybe more of a Kyle question, but like, what have you guys done to get these properties booked so often? And I mean, that's actually my question. Yeah. So what have you guys done to make it such a popular thing?
So generally in marketing, you need a series of streams that kind of form into a river. And so that can be everything from, performance marketing to affiliate to influencer to partnerships, all these different pieces that they sort of come together. The key is obviously to execute on them well, find the ones that work and the ones that don't. Kyle uses this example of like a 20x return, right? Like you find that one channel that works and then you optimize from there. But you also need to have the foresight to optimize channels that aren't necessarily working off the bat. So like in Wander's case, right? Like we'll use the example of performance marketing. Like performance marketing is historically extremely expensive, and it's difficult to build all these systems around attribution and otherwise from a data perspective. And so like for Wander, we're like, okay, like we can have like $0 for CAC if we like just focus on like Twitter and social engagement, all these different things.
Just have John keep tweeting,
Yeah, sure. Or like we can build out this performance engine and like initial tests have us at, let's say, a ridiculous CAC, like $2,000 a booking. I mean, we made the decision very early on that we wanted to continue to focus on these channels and see if we could get them to a reasonable place quickly. And even on the performance marketing side, like just last month, performance marketing is now able to drive profitable demand with instantaneous payback for any dates.
That is really cool.
I mean, that's a like that's the dream, right? It's
that's the IPO right there.
Yeah, well, it's it allows you, again, thinking about scale, it allows you to scale inventory knowing that you're going to be able to fill it. Yeah. Again, even in a month like December, for example, where there is seasonality to this type of business.
For sure.
So being able to drive demand in the off season as well is just, it's great for us. It's great for investors. Like, it's also good for consumers as well, because by definition, like, we're exposing them to something that they're excited about.
Absolutely, man. And I was trying to think of, like, because your business has so many cool upsides. Like I mentioned, even if Wander didn't work out, you have all these properties. I guess one potential downside is, like, for example, as a SaaS, if I launch a feature and it sucks, I can be like, all right, just kidding.
Yep.
With Wander, if you buy a property that, like, maybe doesn't work out, you still own that property. Of course, you still own it, so you can sell it. But, like, have there been any properties that you've purchased that you have maybe taken a step back and like, maybe we should have bought in a different property or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, we haven't had any, like, I think the terminology that we, like, used in the board meeting actually was, like, dumpster fires.
Yeah.
Like, we've been fortunate that we haven't, like, bought anything like that. Like, everything yields, everything's, like, profitable, etc.
So cool.
But, like, we are extremely picky. Like, we evaluate thousands of opportunities, narrow it down to a handful, and then, like, pick whichever one is the best.
Yeah.
And we're trying to use as much data as possible, both short-term rental data along with, like, our own consumer data as well, to say, okay, how many Wander users are in this vicinity? And so, like, what can we expect to drive from there? Yeah. Now, that being said, the other advantage to your point that you mentioned briefly is that, like, effectively what Wander's doing is it's taking a vacation home and converting it into this cash flowing asset. And so that's really where the value creation is, at least from an investment perspective. But what that also means is that in that conversion, if we were wrong for whatever reason, it can be converted back to its original use case and obviously sold.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's sort of the benefit as well, is that it's not like Topgolf, for example, where we're building this like massive driving range and like, oh shit, it didn't work.
Someone's gonna
who's gonna buy it?
Exactly.
Like, versus like, oh, like we bought this. And again, to be very clear, like we do as much work as possible to make sure this doesn't happen. But at the end of the day, like you will see Wander properties for sale at some point in the future, just because
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Well, it's more so in terms of capturing return, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, by definition, right, we're buying these assets. operating them, and then at some point the appreciation or the lifespan of the property is going to reach a point where it makes sense for us to sell it and you know, distribute those returns back to investors.
So cool. I love that bit. And is there time, like, speaking of that, like, is there times where you guys are celebrating? Like, is there certain milestones, like, where you're like, 10 houses, baby, let's have a party? Like, what are your, like?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm like pretty terrible at celebrating.
I was gonna say, that was more directed at you.
Yeah.
is there like times where,
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty terrible at celebrating because I'm always thinking about the next thing.
For sure.
And so, like, I even remember, like, when we announced our Series A and, like, the NASDAQ, like, had it up on the board. And
oh, what? That's so
was,
cool.
like, there, like, standing and looking at it. Like,
you're like, I should be working right now.
Literally what I did is, I was like, that was dope. Got in the car and then looked at, like, 2 properties in upstate New York because I'm like, I'm out here anyway. And then, like, did an interview, like, sitting in some parking lot. And then, like, flew home that evening. And so, yeah, I mean, like, we try and we try and recognize, like, the important moments, but we're just, like, never satisfied. Like, this, like, our culture is just we constantly feel like it's, like, day one. And we also are constantly aware that, again, like, the vast majority of startups fail. And so, like, we're not out of the woods yet. Like, everything's going well. There's a very clear path to, like, this being an incredible company. But I mean, we take our eyes off the ball for a minute and we're going to get hit in the face. So
for sure. And I actually I forgot my question, but I remembered it. Back to the data stuff. I actually love what you were saying about, like, you know, these properties aren't failing typically because, like, we put so much effort and time into the data and, like, processing it and have a board to make sure this is it. Because I feel like a lot of startups will kind of, and probably that would be in your exact place, would be like, oh, let's just pick this property. It looks gorgeous. Let's do it. And it's so cool to see how much time you guys are putting into the efficiency and then being like, yeah, this property is great because we fucking put in the effort to make sure it was great. And so we know it's great. Like,
it's the whole idea of, like, reversible versus non-reversible decisions, right? If a decision is reversible, make it quickly. An example being like, what type of, like, snacks do you have in your fucking office? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, stop deciding. Just pick whatever. But, like, you know, buying an asset, hiring the right team member, or like, what investors are you going to bring onto your company? Like, those are non-reversible, or at least very hard to reverse. And so you want to make sure that you're correct, and it's worth spending the extra time to ensure that you are.
I have never heard that. That's really good. I like that. I'm gonna literally apply that to my life from now on. Seriously.
I'm glad.
Reversible is not. That's really good. Anyways, I'll remember to save that. That's a really great quote. What came down? Like, let's go over the Tesla thing. So, like, obviously, when I rent a property, I'm never gonna expect to have a Tesla there. It's not part of my, like, a normal consumer mindset. What made? Yeah. Well, yeah.
It will be.
It will be. I go to Airbnb. I'm like, dude, where's my Tesla? What made you want to put a Tesla onto all these properties?
Again, it's this idea of thinking about the things that we can do that no one else can, right? Anytime you have a closed ecosystem, anytime you own the hardware and the software, anytime you control something, you want to think about, okay, how can we create a customer experience that no one else can replicate? And, like, rather than using, like, the Tesla at Wander example, you can look at, again, like, Apple's ecosystem, right? So they're like, okay, we can create a really incredible, like, cross-device messaging system where there's, like, emojis and GIFs and, like, high-res video and, like, all the messages are blue and all that sort of fun stuff. Or another great example would be, like, AirDrop, right, across different devices. And so, you know, for us, like, you want to really think about what are the things that you can uniquely do because of your strategy. And the Tesla's obviously, like, just one of them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that's why we rolled out the smart home. Like, it's something that's a great guest delight. It's a little bit like, it can be a little bit of a distraction if you're thinking about it in, like, the broader sense. Like, okay, we're gonna, like, make sure that there's all this, like, smart technology and it really just, you know, is around the customer experience. But, like, what happens is that the moment a user walks up and sees a Wander sign, which, first of all, you're like, shit, this is not like a normal rental because there's like a beautiful Wander sign at the property. And then you're like, all the lights are on. and the music's playing, and then you see this like car and you get excited, and then you realize that like shit, like we can use that.
Yeah.
And like you walk inside and there's like a snack box and like a little like handwritten note like from the Wander team like
So
welcoming
cool.
you, and like all these little touches make it just impossible for anyone else to ever go back to like some
Like
type of other stay.
Normal process, yeah.
Which
Wow.
is why I said, like, in terms of customer expectations, it's amazing how quickly customers just expect something.
Oh, for sure.
And
which also can be a very, very annoying thing.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's annoying,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
not in your case, but
yeah,
like,
but like, if we ever got rid of like Teslas at like a Wander,
yeah.
or just really any type of car, I think that's like the bigger expectation is like
yeah.
some type of like cool car that they can use to explore.
Yeah.
People would be very upset.
Oh, for sure. No, 100%. And speaking of customer experience, you guys do these, I was going through your website, you do these gorgeous travel guides, and you have, each property has like one of your employees, I'm assuming, going through like a guide of the city and like the property and like what you can do in the area. Can you kind of break down the thought process on why you went that's like an extra mile? Like, why did you guys do that for the properties?
Yeah, I mean, where I wanted to go is to this idea of, and I'll actually abstract it even further. Hopefully I don't end up like into like faraway land here.
You're good.
I'll use like Grand Theft Auto or Skyrim or
Love
like
it.
any of these
Love
different
it.
games as
Yep.
an example. You're this character and you like go and explore the world, right? And the reason you do is because there's some type of storyline that brings you to like the auto shop or like to the blacksmith or whatever else, right? That takes you on this adventure around this like world. And I feel like we lost so much of that in terms of like how people live their lives today. Like if you think about it, there's this like wonderful blue marble floating through space that we're all sitting on in like this endless void, and like we're fully meant to go and explore it. Like we're fully meant to go explore it, see, and otherwise
To wander, if you will.
to wander. Which is really corny, and I want to note that I was not the one to say it, even though I repeated it.
Yeah, of course.
And so where I want that to go first is like, okay, here's some guides. Like, get out of the house, go and explore, like have an experience, create memories. What it's going to turn into is building that into the app and creating these incentives to go and experience it. Like, how can we send people on these, like, for lack of a better word, quests?
Yeah.
To go and stay at Bandon and then drive to Redwood National Park.
So cool.
Like, how can we have you like earn points and gamify that whole idea?
Like geocache.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, like at one property, you're like, wow, that's really cool. But then you think about it, it's like, okay, wow, there's 13 locations across the U.S. I could go and do that
just
at.
hit them all up.
And then you think about, okay, well, like Wander Scales, now there's 50, and then, they just launched internationally to Wander Japan or Wander New Zealand or otherwise. And again, you create this idea where, like, you just go onto the Wander app, pick any house anywhere, knowing that it's quality, safe, going to be a great experience, and just like, you don't know what's next. You don't know what adventure you're going to have there. You can choose to go on this quest, or you can choose to just sit there and drink hot chocolate and enjoy yourself, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But like that to me is just such an exciting world. And then of course you add in this idea where like I'm also an owner of this product as well. Like
God, dude.
it's just like it can be a really, again, like everything we do is thinking back from like the customer experience. And to be clear, like we're not there yet. I'd say like we're actually pretty far along in getting there. But yeah, what this company can turn into is super special. We just have to execute.
Yeah. I thought of like 15 questions when you were just talking. I wish I had I usually have a thing I can write down. But one thing I thought of too that's so cool is that when you mentioned like kind of essentially making a quest out of getting to each of the locations, which you didn't necessarily say, but I was kind of thinking about that. That is such a cool idea for me that I can go to every Wander location. And it reminds me of, obviously not even close to the quality, but I stayed at Selena hostels when I went to Costa Rica. And I had such a great time. And we stayed at 3 different Selenas when we went around. And I was like, if I travel anywhere in the world, I'm going to stay at a Selena hostel. And I imagine that being a miniature version of Wander. Well, Selena's very big, but like less high end version of Wander, where Wander Paris opens up, and I'm like, well, I want a Tesla, so I'm definitely not going to go to a hotel, and I want to have the lights on and the music playing. I'm not going to go to a hotel. I'm going to go to the Wander that opened up, and then you guys open up in Asia. Like I'm excited for you guys. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and I think too it was interesting. Like, the big request we got is like just like a simple like search by dates feature, right?
Yeah.
And I remember someone tweeted it, and someone else responded and said, by just requesting a search by dates feature, you're essentially suggesting that you would go to any Wander as long as like the dates were available.
Yeah. And
the person responded yes. And I think that's also a really cool idea, because I don't think that people necessarily know where they want to go. They just want to go. They want to go somewhere and have an incredible time, and then have again like this incredible experience. And if we're able to deliver this idea where like, okay, I need to go on a trip, I need to go somewhere, I want to go with my friends or whatever, I'm gonna open the Wander app, I'm gonna put in my dates, and I'm just gonna click one button and go. And then I know when I get there, like there's gonna be this whole world to explore around it. Yeah, it's super exciting.
It kind of reminds me of like the Hinge like slogan, where it's like the app to be deleted, where it's like, which isn't your concept at all.
I would prefer if people didn't delete.
Don't delete Wander, but no, the concept of like.
Also, I don't think we'll help people find love. Though maybe
maybe a good time there. But no, the concept of Hinge though is like, they're like, you're here to meet someone, but we want you to like meet them outside of our app. We want you to like explore and then like, like literally wander into this relationship. And with you guys, it's like you want to go to the property, but it's like you don't have to stay at the property all day. We want you to be there, but we want you to really like explore your city, like do different things.
We want the property to be like this safe piece of infrastructure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like we want you to feel inspired and safe and excited, and like we want people to go out and explore. We want people to go and visit these local small businesses. We want people to go to these beautiful national parks. Like we want everyone to have a great time. And I think what's interesting too is this idea that your customers also may not necessarily know how to have the perfect experience.
They definitely will. Like they don't know the local anything.
Exactly. And so if you can say like, hey, you arrive, you can settle, but then also like it's like, what are you gonna do? And here's all these things. It's beautiful, especially too again where it's like we're not pushing people to like a local Starbucks or McDonald's. Exactly. Not saying there's anything wrong with those companies, but like we're sending people to again like important community businesses, which is just so different than again like these kind of like soulless operators in the space.
So how do you guys find those though? Because like I don't know what it is, but every time you Google like you're like, I'm gonna go to Nashville, what are cool things to do? It's the worst results. It's literally fucking like, go to the Country Music Hall of Fame. I'm like, okay, or like go to Starbucks. How do you guys find those like key cool like local things? Do you actually physically go there yourselves and like explore the town, ask locals? Like
you have to remember that Wander is the owner. Like it's the same thing of like we are the local in these communities. And so like we are opinionated about like the different places, and like also discovering gems. Like there's like this incredible winery outside of like our Anchor Bay property, which we like spotlight in one of the guides. And it's like I've been up to that area like half dozen times and never knew about it.
Oh, so cool.
And so like that's the other thing too, is like shining a spotlight, and we feature them in our content, like not just a blog or a guide, but also like video content.
Do they know that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Yeah. Which they love.
I didn't mean that in like a privacy thing.
No, that they're excited by, because we're marketing.
Of course, for
like
sure.
We're marketing like our guides of like our public guides of like what to do in Anchor Bay are not just for people who go and stay at a Wander. Yeah, it could also be for like someone who's rolling through the area or staying at a hotel or otherwise. And so even that impact makes me happy. Like the idea that we're driving, we're just driving
like local traffic,
traffic.
It's good SEO too. If you guys make that in articles, like literally what to do, and if What to Do in Every City was a Wander article. That's just like, it's such, I love SEO so much. I want to get into your guys' pricing because like, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to like take, you have the hotel and Airbnb and all the hotels and all that stuff, and they have all these different prices, and then you go, okay, we're going to have this house, and then we're going to offer all this cool shit. We're going to put a Tesla in there, and then you're like, what are we going to charge? Like, how did you guys figure out pricing, and has it changed since you figured it out?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all data-based, right? So we're looking at, like,
okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, right, like, the properties are, like, cash-flowing assets. So you need to have, like, pretty incredible accuracy in terms of, like, what are the cash flows for this property against, like, its cost, like, what yield is it generating, et cetera. And so you do that by... I mean, in our case, we don't actually assume any outperformance against market comps. So when we go into an area, we say, okay, like here are the comparable short-term rentals, and we don't assume that we're going to outperform them, which is really important from a like safety perspective.
Oh, for sure.
Like not assuming that Wander's special. Of course, what ends up happening is like Wander is obviously a special experience. Our houses are like really high quality and beautiful, and so
For sure.
it commands a premium. And then what we do is we basically constantly analyze the trends of the pricing, hospitality, historical data sets, et cetera, to intelligently price the properties. And we work with different providers for these data sets and these integrations and otherwise. But the pricing on Wander is extremely dynamic, which it's like you could look at a set of dates today, and then 3 days later the price is going to be different based on a variety of factors.
And I'm sure... Actually, I'm never gonna ask that question. Stupid. I was gonna be like, is it automated? Like, obviously, there's a guy manually changing the prices.
Yeah, it's automated.
I'll just delete that as a stupid question.
No stupid questions.
Obviously, your business model is, of course, paying for the rental and then having the REITs. Do you see any other models in the future, like maybe like local tour guides, like Airbnb has like experiences? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
so I don't. This is like a contrarian view. So I want to be very clear, like all companies are groups of people, and like every person at every company, like I have great respect for. So like, I want to make that clear. I don't want like an Airbnb to like hate us, because we certainly again like admire what they're doing so much. And like, in the space wouldn't be possible without them, etc. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities in the idea space of what we're doing with Wander. You even look at just productizing the different pillars that we built, right? So you have this booking platform that today just has Wander properties, but like in the future could have curated properties.
Very cool.
You look at this property management software that we've built, and today it's just for Wander, but tomorrow like can it be productized and made available to all of these incredible operators of these different locations? Even Atlas, right? Like, we've basically built an entire investment platform for investing into real estate. Like, how can that be expanded?
Literally, yeah.
And like, there are all these different pieces in the idea space, and even more beautifully, expansion that actually makes sense with our brand.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the Wander that you see in 10 years, will at its core be very similar to what we're doing now, but I mean, it's going to be different, right? It's going to be like Apple started with computers, or like there was no AWS or Prime with Amazon. Like we're a very ambitious company, and the idea space is very full. And we happen to be like a very talented team that's sort of unafraid to tackle all the opportunities.
How big is the team right now?
Like 40 people.
Very cool. Does that include like cleaners, or is that like literally just like marketers? Like,
I mean the most of it, it's like it's actually a very even company. So I think it's like a quarter engineering, a quarter finance, a quarter marketing, and then like a quarter like customer success and otherwise.
Cool. And why did I just lose my question? Did I just cross it off? Oh yeah, sorry. Are you guys targeting the tech community, or is it kind of just like broad anybody? Of course anybody can rent, but like, is the tech community a pretty solid like target for you guys?
Yeah, you'd actually be super surprised again of like how many people who are not in the tech community.
Well, I'm sure, yeah,
like
yeah.
not on Twitter.
Yeah, how'd you
like,
find us? Yeah.
like don't care.
Yeah.
In fact, the vast majority actually.
Yeah.
I would say the fact that like Wander's involved in the tech community is just because like I love like tech.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like a pretty simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we are a startup.
Yeah.
But the startup community is very small compared to the rest of the world.
For sure. Yeah.
In fact, it's like really like not important at all. Like, I mean, it's important, but it's like, very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, there are certainly people from within the community who go and experience a Wander, but it's not like it's probably responsible for less than 5%.
Interesting.
Of the people
Okay.
who stay with us.
Would you attribute that to like your marketing efforts, your SEO, and all that stuff to be the 95%? Or
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that it's just reflective of the population, right? I mean, if you build a consumer company that's truly applicable to a wide set of people, you would hope that at the end of the day, your demographics was reflective of reality.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I would be really scared if I launched a water company, let's say, and like my demographic was only 22-year-old men who like soccer.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's like your niche, like that's like where
Yeah.
you're focusing. But if that wasn't your goal, ideally it looks like 50% men, 50% women, like a wide range of people from different backgrounds and age and otherwise. And that's exactly what it's like at Wander. I
Very
mean,
cool.
it's like, it's the most beautiful rainbow of people from all different backgrounds and diversities and like reasons for going and otherwise. People who are contemplating a career move to hang out with their friends, honeymoons, just whatever you can imagine.
Do you ever hop on the calls with these tenants, just like to see how their experience was or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done, as you would imagine, quite a lot of user interviews. The big thing is now is really like automating that, or at least at my level, is after each day, like that feedback comes through, and it gets like completely dissected. So, yeah, I mean, really, I spend most of my time talking to users before we like find that product market fit, and then from there, it's just constantly making sure that we don't lose it.
Yeah, oh, for sure, 100%. And as a CEO, what would you say like I mean, obviously you're great at a lot of things, like, but what would you say like you're not that so skilled at? Like, is it like, yeah, I guess.
I'm a very much a generalist. Little
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, I mean, there's really, I mean, my ideal is, of course, is that everyone at the team is better than me at some facet of the company,
course.
right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
By definition, otherwise, like I wouldn't have hired them unless I just needed like that extra leverage.
Yeah.
Really, like the approach that I take is, I have this like general philosophy of like, if you read like 5 to 10 books on a subject, like, you know enough to like be able to start to do it, assuming you're like generally intelligent. And then from there, you're able to form an opinion or hopefully some unique type of view, and then able to like bring someone in who's really great at it, who you can like work with and collaborate on the idea. And so, you know, for me, like I try and make it a point that I'm generally competent in every part of the company.
Of course, yeah.
Which candidly is also like how the company starts. I mean, by definition, it's not like like I was reminded of this, even though like I very much don't feel this way. Like in the beginning, like it was just like it was me and like a group of like incredibly supportive like people in my life.
And you're doing everything. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're getting it off the ground, right? Like as a founder, and I think this is what makes it very difficult, you have to be able to do everything to get the company off the ground. But then you need to switch gears into leading a group of people who can hopefully do it much better than you.
Yeah, exactly.
And finding those people and like finding product market fit. And then you have to switch gears again, which is like very nauseating, which is like the process we're going through at Wander right now, which is, you know, it's like, okay, we found product market fit. Now I need to scale it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be that CEO who, you know, gets replaced, you know, and like, you know, like you need to enter that next level. You need to constantly be ahead. So The short answer is that there's lots of parts of the company that I don't do well, or better, of course, than hopefully the team does. But like, I have to be competent at everything. I have to understand everything. Otherwise, I'm just being like lazy.
Yeah, for sure. Do you enjoy being a CEO then?
Yeah, I mean, candidly, like I don't know how to do anything else. Like, I started my first company when I was 13. This like little game server company, which did well, like low six figures. Which
it's such a weird thing to say. Like, when I was 13, just low six figures. Like that's mind blowing to me.
I like to joke that like, I like to joke that it meant that like I was not focused on my homework, which I was not. Like, you know, ran a series of like little internet startups like as a kid, which was just a great learning experience. None of them were very profitable or created like any like lasting enterprise value, but it was certainly a great experience. And then out of high school, you know, started Coder with my incredible co-founders Kyle and Omar in that company, and like, you know, ran that as CEO for the last 5 years, and then obviously like started Wander, and so yeah, I love it. Like, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. If there was, I'd probably go and do it.
Fair enough, man. And so we'll start wrapping things up. I mean, like, first of all, thank you so much for coming out for the podcast.
Of course.
Checking out the Pipe Dream headquarters. We're LSing this. Is going to be Just Push Record Studios. So that's going to be our name. But appreciate you coming out. Where do you see Wander going in the next couple of years? Like, how many properties? Like, what countries are we in? All that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Wander will have its first international location hopefully by the end of the year.
Oh my God! Can you kind of know where it's going to be at yet, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, there's this general idea in travel and hospitality, which is like you need to plant a flag in Europe.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Like London or something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah. Though there are some other places obviously that make a lot of sense. Yeah. Mexico, Canada. Iceland is actually a nice little in between that people don't really think about.
Oh yeah. What's their big city called? It's like a weird
Reykjavik.
Yeah, I didn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
yeah. There you go.
So yeah, we'll plant a flag somewhere internationally, basically just like a statement to the world of like, we want to be everywhere.
So cool.
Which is also like the point of our logo as well, right? It's like we chose the globe hopefully so people understood that, like, because every company starts small, right? And you never want people to think that like, oh, this company's only going to ever operate inside the US. It's just like we're still early, like we're still like a little baby company.
Yeah, so, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have hundreds of locations. We'll have likely started to productize different pieces of the platform as well. So you'll see some like hyperscale in those departments. And yeah, hopefully you'll see this flywheel starting to kick in. And really the biggest KPI is just a bunch of super happy customers.
I love that. Yeah, so I mean, where do you want users to go? I mean, people that are watching this podcast, like wander.com, invest in the REIT, get a property. Like, what are we thinking?
Yeah, just go to wander.com and like whatever is exciting to you from there. And then we're just at Wander on everything else. So
amazing, man. Well, pleasure having you on here. I got the bottle in the way, but
thank you so
much,
sir.
Having you on, man.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited, man. There we go.
I appreciate it.
That's why we strive. I wanted to thank you for watching this entire episode of Why We Strive. Be sure you head to whywestrive.com and subscribe so every Tuesday you can see incredible interviews with some of the best tech founders, investors, and creatives in the industry. Have an amazing day, and don't forget to keep striving.